our basic understanding of rule of law is at risk.
Former President Barack Obama stepping into the intense drama that is now enveloping both sides of the Michael Flynn case. Mr. Obama slamming the Department of Justice's decision to drop charges. Many former DOJ officials are joining him in his outrage. But the Wall Street Journal editorial board writes, quote, Barack Obama is a lawyer, so it was stunning to read that he ventured into the Michael Flynn case in a way that misstated the supposed crime and ignored the history of his own administration in targeting Mr. Flynn. Since the former president chose to offer his legal views when he didn't need to, we wonder what he's really worried about. Now, the piece goes on to say this. Donald Trump's victory increased the chances that this unprecedented spying on a political opponent would be uncovered, which would have been politically embarrassing at the very least. Targeting Mr. Flynn and flogging the discredited Steele dossier kept the Russia collusion pot boiling and evolved into the 2-year Mueller investigation that turned up no evidence of collusion. This from the paper that the president just last month called fake news, not always a friend of President Trump. So here now, Byron York, chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner and a Fox News contributor. Byron, good to see you tonight.
Hi, Martha.
So pretty strong words in that editorial from the Wall Street Journal, which, at times hasn't always been that positive about President Trump. But they really, sort of turned up the heat on former President Obama here, Byron.
Well, there's a lot that we don't know. Ever since Republicans first began discovering questionable activities by the FBI and the Justice Department in the Trump-Russia investigation, which began at least in the summer of 2016, ever since they started discovering things about that, they were asking the question, what did President Obama know? After all, he was president until January 20th, 2017, when a lot of this stuff had taken place. What did he know? Now, with the release of papers surrounding the Justice Department's decision to withdraw charges, drop charges against Michael Flynn, we have learned a few new things. We have learned more about a meeting that took place on January 5th, 2017. Obama would still be president for 2 more weeks. The nation's intel chiefs had come to the Oval Office to brief the president about the intelligence community assessment about Russian meddling in the 2016 election. At the end of it, Obama's in the room, Susan Rice, the national security advisor, Vice President Biden is in the room, and Obama asked everybody else to leave except for James Comey, the FBI director, and Sally Yates, who's the head of the Justice Department at that time, plus Biden and Rice. And he starts talking, the president does, about the wiretap of Michael Flynn and what was heard on that. So we know right there that the president was talking about this Flynn case, and we don't know what else right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting that Sally Yates says that that's how she learned about the Michael Flynn, that they were listening to his phone calls, and he was essentially unmasked because those calls do get tapped into by the intelligence agencies, but that they also decided to lift his name from being covered. I want to go back to the email that Susan Rice wrote about the meeting that you just described on January 5th, as you say, in the final weeks of the Obama presidency. Then on January 20th, the day of the inauguration, she goes back to her computer. She writes an email to herself as sort of a notation, a reminder to document this. She says, President Obama, on the 5th of January, she's referring to, began the conversation by stressing his continued commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this issue is handled by the intelligence and law enforcement communities, quote, by the book. The president stressed that he is not asking about, initiating, or instructing anything from a law enforcement perspective. He reiterated that our law enforcement team needs to proceed as it normally would by the book. By the book, twice referenced there. Byron, your thoughts?
Right. By the book. That is something that really caught the eye of a lot of Republican investigators when they found it. It was pretty much the last thing that Susan Rice ever did in the Obama administration. If you look at the time code, it's a little after noon on January 20th, which means the President Trump has just been sworn in. And then she's writing about this, and she's stressing, it doesn't say what they did, but it was completely by the book, which indicates that there was some possibility of doing things not by the book, and she wanted to make sure everybody knew that President Obama did it by the book. So, yeah. The Wall Street Journal was right. The continued controversy that Democrats pushed over the Trump-Russia affair with the dossier, with the charges that led to the appointment of Robert Mueller, did bring attention to this. And Republicans now, in the form of the Durham investigation, are determined to find out finally what happened here.
Yeah, I mean, it is very worth, continuing to note that the Durham investigation is ongoing, that some of this is sort of the early trailings, I think, of what we're going to see when he is done with his work. Also, you made an excellent point that Joe Biden was in that room on January 5th as well. So no doubt he will be pressed on what he knew and understood about who was listening to Michael Flynn's phone calls and why, and maybe even the FISA questions as well in terms of what bubbled up to the top. Byron, thank you very much. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you, Martha.